First Alert Weather Plus. Today is Monday, November 17th, 2025. Meteorologist Nicholas Snyder here with a look at what we are seeing around the area. And we're tracking quite a bit of activity that is moving on through with some rain, with the potential of some difficult travel for some of us here. So let's get right into what we are tracking here and what we could eventually be seeing over the region. So we're continuing to see, of course, better chances of that rain as we move forward in time here. It's thanks to this area of low pressure that is off to the west. You see this swirl right here, kind of over the high plains here, eastern Colorado, western Nebraska, the Nebraska Panhandle, and of course out toward western Kansas. The high plains, this general area. This is what is eventually working its way further to the east here and driving the development of some rain and the potential of some thunderstorms even for your day tomorrow. And it's not just this system. We will have a couple of other systems that we'll be working on in. Let's zoom in and show you just exactly where this area of low pressure right now is. And we'll animate this radar for you so you can see that swirl. Right in here, centered over western Nebraska, southern South Dakota. A warm front is trailing, or at least leading this system, I should say, to the south and east. And that's where we're going to be seeing the start of some of that precipitation, again, moving through for your day tomorrow. Let's track it. Again, this system will work its way further to the east. There's the little disturbance right here shown on our jet stream imagery right in there, and I'll highlight it for you in our red pen here as well to show you. And kind of this little disturbance is going to cause a lot of the rain activity that we could see for your day tomorrow. So that's what we're tracking here in terms of that. It's a very weak disturbance. It's not one of those strong storms that causes very big gusty winds or very big temperature changes, but it will be a focus of some things that will be headed our way tomorrow. By the way, another pattern change will be headed our way in the long term. And I know that's why a lot of you are watching right now. We'll get to that here in just a second. So here's round one of rain. Again, the low pressure at the surface, driven by that little disturbance aloft, moving on in, pulling in humidity from the Gulf too. And we'll start to see that lift up and over this warm front right here to produce a lot of that precipitation. The precipitation should start in southern Ohio tomorrow. I think we're mostly rain here. There is a winter weather advisory here from the National Weather Service. I'm really not in agreement with this whatsoever. I think we're just mostly rain. Very isolated valleys and rural hollows in portions of Vinton County, Ohio, Meigs County, Ohio, and Athens County, Ohio. Maybe Jackson County, West Virginia. See an isolated area of freezing drizzle tomorrow morning. That's about it. We are mostly rain here, folks. This is not going to be all that impactful tomorrow morning. And mainly most of the rain staying in southern Ohio and along in north of I-64 if you're in West Virginia and Kentucky tomorrow morning. Meanwhile, by the afternoon, we start to see this rain work its way further to the south along the cold front. And by 2, 3 p.m., we start to see that reach the river cities, 3, 4 p.m., the Charleston area. And we'll see more rounds of this. Could even hear a few claps of thunder here, a few flashes of lightning, especially back to the west here in eastern Kentucky. The Storm Prediction Center does have a level 1 of 5 marginal risk out in this part of Kentucky. For our part of Kentucky, when you're talking West Liberty, Salyersville, Moorhead points east, we're not going to see any sort of strong to severe weather. Just downpours of rain, and again, just a few rumbles of thunder here or there. And that's about it. And again, through the evening, multiple rounds of rain. Outdoor plans going to be a little tricky for your day tomorrow, so we will have to watch that for sure as we move forward tomorrow. The system moves away. We get a little bit of a break as we head into Wednesday and Thursday, and then a couple more disturbances will try to work their way on through. Most of your eyes are probably going to this area up here in southern Ontario, but the actual system that's going to have an impact on us is this system here. That's in parts of the central lowlands here near Arkansas, Missouri, right along the Oklahoma-Arkansas line right here. And I'll highlight that for you, kind of the disturbance that we're looking at right in here. And that's going to develop another area of low pressure out of the central lowlands and work its way closer to the area. So round 2 of rain after this little break coming Wednesday and Thursday develops in on Friday. working in more humidity from the Gulf and lifting more of that humidity up to produce that precipitation. By the way, it's worth noting there's not a whole lot of moisture with either one of these systems. So what we're going to be seeing is some drier conditions over the region, which will definitely take compared to what we had been seeing over the last couple of systems where we did see maybe the potential of some flooding. So our European model will show you, or at least should be showing you, rain on Friday. We're having a little technical difficulty there. My apologies for that. Let me go in here and fix this to really show you what we're tracking here with this system. Sometimes the model run comes in a little bit later that we don't want to see that. So let's get the correct model run in here to show you. Here's that precipitation coming in on Friday. It's pretty much an all-day rain. It's a light rain, and we could see a few rumbles of thunder here. It's not really going to be a hugely impactful thing because we could see, again, a hit-or-miss activity for your day on Friday. So that's something we're definitely watching, but not really too huge of a deal for a lot of us. In fact, I'll show you those precipitation totals that we could see. Up to an inch of rain possible tomorrow, so no flooding there. And another maybe inch of rain coming through on Friday. Now, this is the system's total combined rains. This is not a one-event rain. So we're not expecting, again, any sort of flash flood concerns or flood concerns because of the nature of these systems kind of being combined instead of showing you the one system dropping you 2.5 to 3 inches of rain. We would definitely not want to see that. And luckily, I don't think we will be seeing that. We're going to be seeing an inch of rain for both systems. And with a little dry time in between each one of them, we should have plenty of time to clear out the sewers, clear out any drainage problems and the rivers or anything like that to get us on a better end of things as we head on down the line here. With areas of low pressure coming through, you may be experiencing aches and pains, and Chief Meteorologist Tony Cavalier has more on why this is.
So I want to give a shout out to my colleague Dylan Godet for coming up with a great graphic in order to talk about aches and pains. This is the time of the year when the temperature goes up and down, low pressures pass by, high pressures follow, that the pain index really spikes. Here's what happened this past weekend. Warm and windy weather on Saturday, so that was a lower pressure. The falling pressure had us in the red zone. Now on Sunday, the winds turned around to the north. The air turned chillier air weighs more, and so the pressure went up. You might say, well, if it's a low pressure, falling pressure, you get aches and pains. You won't have the same when the pressure is rising, but it's just the opposite. Here's why. Doctors have educated me over the years. The bones are resilient. They can handle low pressure. They can handle high pressure. They don't like it when it goes up and down. That's especially true of somebody who has a trick knee, a tennis elbow, maybe you've had an implant. So what you want to watch is the pressure. If it stays pretty constant, as it will much of this week, then the amount of pressure on your bones will not allow for much in the way of a flaring of arthritis or rheumatism. So this week, pretty much straggling this line. This is the 10-20 millibar line of the pressure in units, millibars, and bottom axis, the x-axis, if you want to look back to algebra, is the daily scale. And what we had up and down pressure over the weekend, and now looking into the middle of this week, we're pretty constant. And that means the aches and pains index will back away. You know where the pressure is constant is out in the desert southwest, out in Phoenix and Tucson. Oftentimes folks retire there because the pressure stays constant, and in their golden years, they like to have little in the way of flare-ups from arthritis and rheumatism. We all get it when you get to my age. Now, as we get to the end of the week, though, a new spring storm system's heading our way. Nicholas will be tracking that, and as it does, well, we're going to have a flaring of arthritis and rheumatism because of the falling pressure expected. So look by the weekend, late week and the weekend, look for the flaring of arthritis and rheumatism. And we know that when we look at a satellite image like this, because our focus of attention is out west and east. This is the weekend whirlpool. Whenever you see these whirlpools, that means the pressure and the temperature goes up and down. Pressure and temperature are kind of related. Changes in temperature, changes in pressure. Next change in pressure will come when a storm system off the Pacific Ocean that brings flooding into California and Tom Lamas and his crew at Nightly News will be tracking that. As this crosses the country, we're going to have a storm system bring us spring weather at the end of the week. Pressure will fall, and that's when arthritis and rheumatism, that's when the aches and pain index will spike back up. And if you look across the Pacific Ocean, these storms are lined up from the Aleutians back to Japan, and they ride the jet stream across the country. Well, it's the time of year when I expect rising and falling pressures to cause aches and pains. And it all has to do with the up and down nature of pressure, up and down nature of temperature. If you keep the temperature constant, you keep the pressure constant, and you have a better opportunity to have a reduction in aches and pains. If you're a senior, or maybe you've had an implant, or a tennis elbow, or a trach knee. Talking about aches and pains as it relates to a satellite picture, as it relates to pressure, sure. That's what the study of meteorology is kind of about, as we relate it to the sociology in the world we live in. Thank you for watching.
And thank you, Tony, for that. Yeah, we're going to have quite a few of these systems, as you mentioned earlier, Tony, working their way on through for much of the rest of the week. I mentioned that system tomorrow, and again, the system later this week, and that could cause a lot of issues with the aches and pains, with the changes in pressure and the high pressure returning too, by the way, by the middle of the week. So quite interesting stuff. And again, thank you, Tony, for that great report there. Let's get back to our forecast here. I want to take you zone by zone for your day tomorrow. Really depends on where you are tomorrow. I think it's an all-day rain for southern Ohio. If you're in MacArthur, if you're toward Athens, yes, you could see some freezing drizzle in isolated spots tomorrow, mainly in the rural hollows. I think almost all of us see rain tomorrow morning. And again, in spite of the winter weather advisory that is in place, my personal opinion, and consulting a lot of the other opinions of the meteorologists here at WSAZ, this is not going to be a huge issue for much of your morning tomorrow. So we should be good, just seeing some rain. Temperatures into the lower and middle 40s, though, so make sure you're bundling up. It's going to be on the chillier side, and have that umbrella on hand. That's definitely going to be a concern for a lot of us, getting wet tomorrow for sure, especially in southern Ohio where it's an all-day rain. Now in eastern Kentucky, we'll see some showers and thunderstorms. Mainly the afternoon time frame is when we're going to see this activity, really dependent upon where you are. We've been talking about this for really a while here with how this pattern is just set up, where there's going to be a warm front over certain areas that see temperatures in the 60s. For instance, Pikeville at 62. Further to the north, though, up in Ashland, 48 degrees. So really dependent upon where you are as far as those temperatures are concerned tomorrow. But either way, have that umbrella on hand. And if you're further to the north, you're bundling up. And further to the south, you're wearing shorts. 48 Wayne, 55 Williamson. Again, big temperature contrast right there. We're seeing rain showers and storms mainly in the afternoon. 48 Huntington, 50 Charleston. If you're further to the south, you're talking 60s returning to the area. Again, back into Williamson, middle and upper 50s. Back into the lower and middle 40s for those of us in Mason County, Jackson County, up toward Wirt County, even into Roane and Calhoun counties. Mid-40s expected for you. And most of the rain, unless you're along and north of I-64, should come during the afternoon. Maybe a few rumbles of thunder with that as well. All right, let's talk about the big headlines going around, and that is the Southern Stratospheric Warming Event. What does this mean? We've heard a lot about this activity and how it could impact our weather going into December. We've had a lot of headlines about the December pattern, and this is it. This is the moment everybody's been waiting for. So let's talk about what the troposphere and the stratosphere are. Well, during the summertime, the troposphere and the stratosphere up in the poles are separate, and that's thanks to the poles seeing sunlight, at least some sunlight during the summertime. Now, we, in our part of the woods, we see sunlight at least every day during the year. Doesn't have to be direct sunlight, but we definitely see at least some sunlight every day during the year. As we know, in the poles during the wintertime, they don't see any sunlight. It is dark 24/7. In fact, places in Alaska saw their last ever sunset of 2025 yesterday. They won't see the sun again until early 2026, northern Alaska and in the Arctic Circle. That's what happens. So in the summertime, because they see that sunlight, the ozone up in the stratosphere absorbs that radiation and it warms the stratosphere. So the stratosphere is warmer and separate from the troposphere. Temperatures increase with height in the stratosphere. They decrease with height here in the troposphere. But during the wintertime, things start to change here. The North Pole sees no sunlight, and the ozone is not absorbing any radiation. So the stratosphere and the troposphere become one layer of air. And so what happens in the stratosphere really, really impacts what happens in the troposphere during the wintertime. And when you get a warming event up in the stratosphere, you're talking about a much warmer surface up in the poles. I'll take you back up here. Warmer surfaces up in the poles mean the polar vortex is going to be disrupted. And that is what is set to happen as we head into December. That polar vortex is going to move its way further to the south and bring us a much colder pattern at least over the area. So here's what you can expect as we go into December. At least we're seeing a warmer Thanksgiving. I think travel for Thanksgiving, both where you're going and coming back, should not be too bad, at least region-wide. There could be other issues out in the West Coast, but at least in our neck of the woods here, travel for Thanksgiving looks above average temperatures. Pretty calm conditions as far as that precipitation. Could get a little blustery on us here or there, but not expecting any severe weather to slow you down too much. The pattern will start to shift, though, as we head into Thanksgiving weekend. That is really the key right here, and bigger changes come a little bit later on. Let's take a look at, in fact, what we could be seeing and kind of the main issues with this. I'm going to go to our weather computer here. Our models will kind of give you a good idea of what we could be seeing. So these are what we call ensemble models. They're basically one model run over and over and over again with different parameters and different kind of things that we could be seeing here, different kind of starting points here. And I'll try to get myself here in a better view so you can really see it clearly here. We've changed up a lot of things up here on the WSAZ Now desk, so there we go. You can see it very clearly. We're getting used to some new changes up here, but here we go. This is what I'm talking about. We saw that cooler pattern last week. Notice the warmer than normal pattern, and by the way, the orange means warmer than normal temperatures. The blues mean cooler than normal temperatures. Pretty self-explanatory there. But as we head into the end of this week and even into next week, in spite of a little disturbance here or there next week, look at this. By Thanksgiving, much warmer than normal conditions. This is the American model, by the way, and I will show you the European model a little bit later on. But watch what happens after Thanksgiving. We start to see this advance up here as we head into early December. Notice the warmness over our region into the start of December. I don't think the pattern really starts shifting. We start to see hints of this by Thanksgiving weekend here with the disruption coming through. You notice a period of lower temperatures right here. But once we head into early December, early to mid-December, toward the end of the first week and the beginning of the second week of December, that's when things will start to change. This is going to be very important to how the weather is going to be impacted over much of the United States. Let's go to the European model. This typically has a better handle on things as of late, especially. The European model has been very good. But this, too, is showing those above normal temperatures heading into the end of this week, continuing to last through Thanksgiving right here. Now, notice what happens Thanksgiving weekend. Cooler than normal conditions. That's that hint of the pattern change I mentioned. And then we'll watch back here what's headed our way up into portions of Washington and Oregon. Likely this is expected to shift its way further to the east, and that's going to have an impact on our weather heading into the beginning of December. Keeping a very, very close eye on that pattern heading into December. And, of course, once anything changes, we will be the first to let you know about any changes that could be headed our way. Let's go back to the other weather computer here. Back to those headlines. Again, early to mid-December is when that big pattern flip is expected. So when you see a pattern change like this, yes, snow chances will be there. The most likely thing, though, again, is going to be the colder than normal temperatures that will move in toward the end of the first week of December. We'll have to watch that very closely. Could bring about some winter-like conditions that I'm sure not many people are looking forward to seeing. But we will keep you updated here on First Alert Weather Plus and, of course, at WSAZ on air and online here. Let's take a look at a shorter range pattern for you, and we'll kind of show you the makeup of that polar vortex. It's pretty strong right now. We're not seeing many disruptions to that. Now, once we head toward the middle of next week, we'll start to try to see an advance of some further south cold air. This is that hint of that pattern change toward the weekend. This will also be prevalent as some warmer air nudges up into Alaska. That's that eastern Pacific oscillation. But the key here is why early December is expected to be at least somewhat on the warmer side is up here toward Greenland. This is that North Atlantic oscillation. We need this to go negative. This is it in its positive phase. That polar vortex still strong, a little bit weaker on the Alaska side in the Arctic Circle. Again, we'll ultimately have to watch that. Moving forward, again, you see that advance right in here around Thanksgiving as that Alaskan air really starts to take over and begin to developing some interesting patterns as we head into the end of November and December. That's that hint of that pattern change that I was mentioning. Closer view showing a similar thing. Again, warmer than normal conditions lasting through the rest of November, at least for the most part. And then we'll see what this advancement of that cooler than normal air does for the first weekend after Thanksgiving and, of course, beyond, and how that could have an impact on our weather here. Big changes could be on the way. At least in the short term here, we're looking at above normal temperatures. So the next 6 to 10 days, that is, of course, Sunday through Thanksgiving, look to be above average. And precipitation-wise, yes, we're slightly above average, but it looks like, for the most part, calmer conditions are to be expected over the area, which is what a lot of people want to see here. Super 7-day forecast for you. We're going to highlight Friday. That's that next system headed our way. And this is a pretty similar picture to what we showed you earlier as far as that precipitation was concerned, moving its way on through. We're seeing more of a widespread event overnight Thursday night into Friday thanks to the warm front. Once that warm front works its way further to the north, it's more of a southern Ohio widespread precipitation, whereas into West Virginia and eastern Kentucky, we see some dry time before the storms work in during the evening and into the overnight. And meanwhile, Saturday and Sunday looking a lot better with drier conditions and those temperatures back into the middle and upper 50s. My apologies, folks, for all the technical difficulties here. Again, we're getting used to rearrangement of some things up here, but we'll continue to work on it here. This is First Alert Weather Plus. We give you the latest information, everything you need to know here on WSAZ First Alert Weather Plus. We air on all the digital platforms, including our YouTube channel. Be sure to like and subscribe to that, WSAZ First Alert Weather Plus there. This episode will be posted tomorrow, and every episode that we've done in the past can be found on there. Of course, if you missed this, you can go to WSAZ.com as well. You can find us there in the First Alert Weather Plus tab. Follow us all on Facebook. I'm meteorologist Nicholas Snyder on Facebook. Dylan is Dylan Goday Weather, and Tony is Tony Cavalier. In the meantime, make it a great Monday, everybody.